All right, I wanted to show you a real-life application about how we use linear programming in the real world. So, um, example number one here, Wheels Inc. makes mopeds and bicycles. Okay, experience shows that they must produce at least 10 mopeds. They also need to make some bicycles, but they cannot make 0 bikes. The factory can produce at most 60 mopeds and 120 bicycles per month. The profit on a moped is $134 and the profit on a bicycle is $20. At most, they can make a total of 160 items. How many of each should Wheels Inc. produce in order to maximize their profit? Okay, so this is a situation that a lot of businesses run into um, with trying to maximize profit, minimize cost, all that type of stuff. And so we're going to go through and we're going to do this word problem in order to figure out how much Wheels Inc. can actually make. Okay, so we got to determine what our two variables are going to be. All right, so the two variables, we know that they are going to they're going to make mopeds and they're going to make bicycles. I'm going to call my mopeds X, my bicycles Y. So this right here is going to be mopeds. Okay, this right here is going to be bicycles. So now that we have X and Y labeled, we can also come down here and we can do the same thing. We know that my Y was going to be bicycles, so we can go ahead and say that this right here is bicycles. Okay, and then we can also say that this right here is, my X is going to be mopeds. All right, so we got my axes labeled and we have my two variables. Okay, now it wants me to go ahead and write the objective quantity equation. Okay, $134 per moped. Okay, $20 per bicycle. Right, and that is my profit. So if we wanted to go ahead and write an objective equation, I would write profit is equal to $134 per moped plus $20 per bicycle. Okay, done with this, done with this, done with this, and I know that I've labeled my variables. All right, now we need to go ahead and talk about our constraints. Okay, and that was what we used yesterday to go ahead and make that shaded region that's going to give us our max and min values. Okay, so experience shows that they must produce at least 10 mopeds. Okay, so we know that my mopeds are my x variable. So we're going to say x is greater than or equal to 10 because we got to make at least 10. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross that off. That's one constraint. They also need to make some bicycles. They cannot make 0 bicycles. So if we wanted to do that, we know that y is going to be greater than or equal to 1. All right? They cannot make 0. They have to make 1. You can't make half a bicycle. That's why I put y is greater than or equal to 1. Cross it off. The factory can produce at most 60 mopeds. So we know that x has to be greater than 10, but it also has to be less than or equal to 60. This can also be written this way. Excuse me. Let me erase that real quick. This can also be written, all right, 10 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 60. So that's another way we could write that. Okay. The most they can produce is 120 bicycles, so y has to be less than or equal to 120. Again, we can take and write this one. Y has to be greater than 1, but it has to be less than or equal to 120. Okay? So now I'm going to cross that off, and then it says at most they can make a total of 160 items. So my last constraint here is going to be this. Mopeds plus bicycles has to be at most they can make 160, so less than or equal to 160. Okay, so I'm going to take and I'm going to graph these red checks right here. Okay, and those are going to be my constraints. So we know that x has to be in between 10 and 60. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here. All right, I'm going to use red for this. We know that x is my mopeds here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw in. Let me go ahead and move this down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go all the way up to here, and we know that it has to be greater than 10, but then it has to be less than 60. So this right here is going to be my constraints for my mopeds. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's do it with green. All right, green is talking about the bicycles, 1 to 120. So we know that we're going to have to go ahead and draw in a graph here of 120, and it's got to be less than 120. All right, but it also has to be greater than 1, and 1 is going to be so close down here to my origin, and we're going to shade this way. So right now I got this box. All right, this is my constraint box right here. Okay, but the last one that we have to graph is this. X plus y is less than or equal to 160. So we know for this one, my x-intercept is going to be 160, comma 0, and my y-intercept would be 0, comma 160. So I'm going to go ahead, come up here, and I'm going to do this in a different color now, and I'm going to go down to 160 is going to be like all the way out here. Maybe instead of doing x and y intercepts for that one, maybe what we should do is we should actually solve for y. We would get y is less than or equal to negative x plus 160. So if I go up here to 160, and I know I'm going to go down 1, right? I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, because my slope is negative 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to run just like that. All right, so if I go ahead and I graph that now, okay, we have to shade below this. So we now have, all right, my region that's going to go ahead and make all of these inequalities true, okay? Now, again, remember we want to take and we want to locate all of my vertices. So we have this one right here. This one is at 10, comma 1. This vertex right here is at 60, comma 1. This one right here is at 60, and then it goes up to 100. All right. This one right here, we know that my y value is 120. Let's go down and find out what x is. So x, I believe, is 40 for that one. All right, we come straight down. Yep, we got 40 for that one. All right, so we got 40, 120. And then this is another vertex right here. I got 10, comma 120. So I'm going to take and I'm going to label all of my vertices here. 10, comma 1. All right, 60, comma 1. All right, this one right here, 60, comma 100. Okay, we got 40, comma 120. And then we got 10, comma 120 as well. All right, now what we want to do is we want to take all of these and we want to put them up into my objective quantity. We want to find my maximum and we want to find my minimum, my combination of bikes and mopeds that's going to make us the most profit. Okay, so I'm going to take and I'm going to substitute this in here. So my profit for this one is going to be 134, all right, times 10, all right, plus 20 times 120. Okay, so when we do that, we're going to get, let me pull out a calculator real quick, and you can do this with me too. All right, calculator. All right, so 134 times 10, all right, gives us 1340 plus 120 times 20 would give me 2400. And when we go ahead and we add that together, so plus 1340, all right, we end up with $3,740. So I'll write that right here, $3,740 for that combination. Okay, now this one, 134, all right, times 40 plus 20 times 120. So let's do that. 134 times 134 times 40. 134 times 40. All right. plus 2,400. This one right here would give us $7,760. Not bad for a month of work right there. All right, let's do 60 times 134. All right, we got $8,040. All right, plus 100 times 20. So this one's going to give us $10,040. Oh, $10,040. Okay. This one right here, you got 60 times 134. All right, plus 20. This one's going to give us 8,000 and all right, hold on a second. That one's going to give us $8,060. All right, and then this one would give us 134 times 10. All right, plus 20. We're going to get $1,360 for that one. Let me check this one again. 40 times 134. All right, plus 120 times 20. Yeah, 7,760. So, max. All right, max right here. All right, min right here. So if we wanted to make the most amount of money, all right, my max, we would want to sell 60 mopeds. All right, and we want to go ahead and sell 100 bicycles. And if we did that, that would go ahead and make us a profit of $10,000, all right, $40. Now my min, which if you're running a business, obviously you don't want to do, all right, but this min right here is still going to make you a profit, would be 10 mopeds, all right, 1 bicycle, and that would go ahead and net you a profit of $1,360. All right, so really, guys, that's what we're looking at right here. Is we're looking at how to figure out the amount of profit, manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. Okay, thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.